Hey, good morning. As you can see, we have got not any more snow, which is wonderful as spring tends to go. So I'm glad the green grass is back. And all of my wonderful tulips and hyacinths and things like that I planted, hey Peggy, that I planted in my yard are coming up. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Rita Hickman, body-mind expert, Shiatsu massage therapist, and my specialty is helping women who are in toxic relationships, hey Shannon, get strong enough so that they can do whatever they want with their life. They can move forward, hey Kellyanne, they can get rid of people, they can find a new job, they can go to the next chapter in their life, whatever it may be. I help women kind of get into alignment and do that, especially if all their energy is being sucked up from mental illness around them, which is the segue into what we're going to be talking about today, which is when is a narcissist not a narcissist, and what you can still do about it, even if they are very toxic. So the word narcissist has been bandied around a lot lately. And really what it kind of covers, what it sort of covers are toxic relationships and people who have what are known as cluster B symptoms. And many people are walking around, we tend to look at people, our brain likes to look at people as black and white. We like to put them in a box, we like to put a label on them, we like to make sense of it and then move on with our day. But in reality, people are all along a whole spectrum. You can have a little bit of a problem with something, you can have a lot of a problem with something. Hey Stan, a toxic problem is considered a problem when it gets in the way of your life, when it really significantly gets in the way of your life. Just like an eating disorder goes from, well, I have problems with food, to something that you need to be diagnosed with when it starts impacting your health and well-being and your everyday activities. That's kind of the gold standard. If you feel that something is getting in the way of your life, then it's a problem. So many people, in fact, all of us are walking around with these narcissistic tendencies. The tendency to, for our insecurity, to make us want to blow up our own, ego, to look good in front of people, to protect ourselves at all costs. And in the world we live in, without community or family, a lot of children were, kind of shoved to the side, either because of divorce or because of, illness within the family or abuse or something like that happened. We used to have communities that helped families and children evolve, into adults that they need to be. But we've lost these. We've lost these connections and that support. And because of that, our normal narcissistic, self-absorbed, fight or flight, protection sort of tendencies and qualities were allowed to flourish and blossom. And so something that might have been a problem in the past, just a general problem, has now become something that's labeled as a mental health disorder. So just because somebody doesn't have what might be diagnosable as narcissism does not mean that they're toxic. In cluster B personality disorders, there's a whole range of things. And so for you as a person, it's important for you to get an idea of the sort of toxic person you're dealing with. So I would suggest that you look up cluster B. It'll give you some really great information and experience. Now, why would you do that? Because it would be like taking a kid who had dyslexia and had a hard time reading and putting them in a behavior disorder class because they were frustrated. They clearly don't have a personality disorder. They've got dyslexia, but they don't know how to handle it, and they're frustrated and overwhelmed and exhausted. This is what's happening to many of us. We're being mislabeled and put into different boxes, and when that happens, people really don't get the help that they need. It's very likely that many people who have cluster B symptoms. They can be borderline personality disorder, they can be the narcissism disorder, they can be, antisocial behavior, a million different things. And they're on that spectrum like we talked about. Everybody's in a different spot. Now, one of the neat things is that genetics and research and things have shown us that these personality disorders are part genetic and part environmental. And so, let's say ADD. or ADHD. They've noticed that kids who have ADHD, they've got a specific novelty gene. And this novelty gene, when nurtured properly, they go out into the world and they're able to adapt and change and create change within their environment. So when they're raised in a healthy way, these qualities, these genetic qualities, are actually incredibly helpful to the world, to the community at large. And it's the same thing with a lot of the genetics behind personality disorders. You know, the genetics are there, they've got the predisposition for it, but when it's not nurtured or looked at or dealt with in a healthy way, when there's also maybe trauma or PTSD involved, you know, something else involved, these really helpful genetic qualities become something that's very painful and harmful for a lot of people, that destroys somebody's life and destroys the community around them. So that's one of the cool things about personality disorders, is because it's part environment and it's part genetics. They really can't help, you know, genetically being wired towards a certain disposition. But what you can do is you can help people that you really love. Let's say they're your kids or your parents, or maybe somebody that you've decided you're going to stick with, either because you're a friend or a spouse, you know, for the long haul. The better you can understand where these emotions are coming from, the better you can understand what's going on in their brain, what their tendencies are, what maybe their genetic, you know, motivation is, the more you can help deal with it. So, for example, borderline personality disorder is not really based in arrogance. It's based in an emotional overreaction and an inability to control those strong emotions. And so it's very reactionary. And in order to kind of survive, many people with borderline personality end up coming across as really arrogant. But underneath it is a desire to fit in, is a desire to belong, a desire for who they are, to be appreciated and celebrated. Whereas a narcissist, on the other hand, their personality disorder is even more disruptive, and they really do believe that they are better than everybody else. So I know it sounds like splitting hairs. I totally get that. But when you can start investigating and looking at the person who's causing so much toxic stuff in your life, don't just look at, you know, well, they were traumatized as a kid, or they're bad people, or they're evil, or, you know, whatever quick little label we want to put on them. Realize that there's a genetic component and an environmental component. And you cannot influence, well, you actually can. Science shows that we can influence the genetic component through diet, through regulating our emotions, through positive experiences. We can, but that's more of an inside job. But environmentally, you can help set up environments where people who have these genetic dispositions can actually thrive, where they can become the supportive and helpful part of society that they're supposed to be. Hey, Roxy, when we can look at people who we consider toxic or difficult to be with, you've got a couple choices. Choice number one is to say, I'm not invested enough, you're not important enough to me, and you don't give me enough value, and I need to let you find somebody else who can work with you better, who's better aligned. Let's say, you know, a healer or somebody who's done their own work, who can see past. You know, so you either say, all right, we need to walk away from this because this is too toxic for me, or you say, you know what, I understand enough and I'm grounded enough and healthy enough, I'm going to help you through this process. I'm going to help you get the nourishment that you need so you can take those genetic qualities, which were originally designed to be benefits to society, benefits to community. You know, the sensitivity to the environment, they knew when danger was coming, and they were the ones that could protect at all costs. They were willing to, you know, to put things out there, risky behaviors and things which the rest of us would be like, are you kidding me? I'd never do that. These are the ones that, you know, in the wars, hey, Michael, in the wars would run out and rescue other people, you know, that needed medical assistance. We have to stop looking and demonizing people who are toxic. We have to stop demonizing and start looking at them as people who are struggling with something, and not necessarily struggling because they were broken as children. Hey, Michael, not because they were necessarily broken as children, but because they're a mix. They're a mix of genetics and environment. And in the healing profession, people can be healed. And you can help create situations and environments where narcissists or personality disorders or those sorts of mental health issues can really be worked with. Because there's nothing worse than doing the best that you know how and having someone come along and say you're evil, that you're broken, that you'll never be fixed, you're not a supportive part of society. And actually, this is what a lot of personality disorder people do. They attack with words like that. They attack very viciously and unkind, which makes the rest of us want to be like, oh yeah, well, here we go. You can dish it out. Well, let's see if you can take it. In reality, they usually can't. They're saying the things which are going on in their own head. They're saying the things that they feel about themselves. They're saying the things which are deeper inside of them, and they don't have that same filter or control. They haven't strengthened that muscle to manage what they're talking about. So you get to decide. With one of my good friends, I knew they were worth my time when we were in the middle of a drama, an altercation. Hey, Stephanie. I knew they were worth my time because halfway through the altercation, they stopped and they said, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything that you need? And I thought, well, that's really interesting. They have the ability to pull back in the middle of this and ask and check in. Granted, 5 minutes later, they were back on the warpath and out of control of their emotions. But it told me that this was a person that might be struggling with something, but because I was grounded enough and I was willing to take on this adventure, of my own growth and intimacy and love and care, that, this might work out. And so it was a gamble, absolutely a gamble. You roll the dice and you say, well, maybe this will work out, maybe this won't. And always ready to make the shift if you need to. So narcissists that we label as narcissists aren't necessarily that. They're probably part of the cluster B symptoms or dealing with something like PTSD too. When we can stop villainizing people and start looking at them as people, we can actually make really positive changes because every single person has benefits and has drawbacks. And when we focus on the benefits, feeling like a victim, when we focus on the drawbacks, feeling like a victim, feeling victimized, we continue to perpetuate this toxic situation. But when we look at people as in, I'm not being victimized, but what do I need to do to make sure I take care of myself? What do I need to do to make sure that I stay stable and grounded? And once you get that in place, then you say, how can I help this person that I care about, that I've invested my time and energy into? Now, it doesn't mean that if somebody has domestic violence, if somebody is a sociopath, if somebody's a psychopath, that's clearly dangerous. They need super professional help, which you cannot give them. You are not capable of giving them. If they will act out their behavior in dangerous ways, you absolutely need to protect yourself. But if they have struggled with emotions, if they have struggled with insecurity, and they behave in ways which are off the charts emotionally, you might want to take a few steps back and say, what's really going on here? And instead of, putting them in the box and writing everybody off, instead, look at this person that you love and that you care about and say, how can I help them with this burden or this cross that they carry? Because having a personality disorder is really a cross that people carry. It's heavy and they struggle. Doesn't mean that they aren't, egomaniacs that will, turn on you on a dime. But it does mean that given the right circumstances, given, the right time in life, the perfect storm, all the stars align, that people that you love have the ability to evolve and grow. It doesn't mean that their genetics will change, although it might. As I said, science is anymore saying we can change our genetics, which is super cool, but we are saying we can change the environment. We can change how we interact. And when you change that, when you go from walking on eggshells and frightened and making the situation worse, to a situation where you're like, what's going on here? What do I need to do in order to protect myself and help this person that I care about? When you look at it as a mental health issue, as a burden that they're carrying, it makes it so much easier for you because now it's something that can be dealt with. Put the correct label on it. Don't label it as evil. Don't label it as something that's so dramatic and so villainizing, because that doesn't make things easier for anybody. Look at it as in, okay, they're struggling with a mental illness. What do I want to do about this? How do I want to handle it? And the first step is to do some research. If you decide to keep somebody in your life, do some research. Find out who they are. Hey, Tina, look deeper than the surface. And when you get an idea of what people with personality disorders are really struggling with and where they are on that spectrum, whether they're too far gone and they need to be institutionalized, or whether it's workable, they've got some tools, they've done some work, maybe we can get through this. You get to decide what you want to engage with and what you don't. But if you do decide to engage with it, or you're stuck engaging with it, do your homework. Because when you start doing your homework, you'll start to understand how to navigate the situation. What will trigger, what won't trigger, what will support somebody, what will help them feel more balanced and more stable so they don't behave in an irrational, out of control, really crazy, cruel, mean sort of a way. When people get the things that they need, when they're nourished, when they feel balanced, they're able, those qualities that are good for society are able to come forth, are able to come up. And the qualities which are destructive in a negative way, are able to diminish and dissipate. And then when they come at you, you know exactly what your game plan is. You're able to say, aha, this is what's going on, this is how I'm going to handle it, and this is how the path will probably go. This is the process, and I'm okay with this. We'll figure it out. That's where love and intimacy and relationships and evolution and growth really come from. When we go to our edge of our comfort zone and we stretch and we encompass even more, when we decide we're going to try to love something which is very difficult to love, when you do that, you not only, as I said, get the drawbacks, but you also get the benefits. You also get the benefits of people who are super creative and know how to make life a lot of fun and know how to challenge themselves and challenge other people, and will push you to grow and evolve into a higher version of yourself. That's the ideal you're looking for. And so when we stop villainizing people and we start embracing them, maybe from a distance, maybe embracing them from another country, maybe embracing them from far, far away. But when we can start embracing that this is a mental health issue and we're all struggling, and what are my boundaries, and how do I want to deal with this, and what's my game plan, and what's my strategy, and what do I need to do to stay healthy and balanced? When you start looking at it in that way, hey, Kimberly, then you will evolve and they will evolve. It's when we allow ourselves to feel victimized and beat up, and we don't do the things that we need to do, and we don't give ourselves that space and those boundaries, that's when we lose the ability to take our society and raise it to a whole nother level of beingness, a whole nother level of relationships and connection and intimacy and closeness. Let's stop looking at people and putting them in boxes and saying, well, they're just bad people. That's just the way that it is. Let's stop doing that. And let's start looking at people with a wider vision of compassion. Doesn't mean you let yourself get beat up. But what it does mean is that you look deeper. You look past the surface. Hey, Stevie, you look into the person that you're dealing with or working with, and you decide, is this the challenge that I want to take on in my life, or is this not the challenge? It's okay either way. Because if you aren't the person to help, if you aren't the person to assist, somebody else will be. It's a really big world. They'll be able to find somebody who has that compassion and that ability to help them out. You betcha, Stephanie, no problem. They'll be able to find someone who can help them through this. It does not have to be you. But that compassion piece that you have, that looking at somebody with care, and nourishment and not wishing them ill, that has a powerful effect, because we are all connected. If you're going to look at quantum physics, we're all connected on that quantum level. And so your thoughts of compassion and kindness will directly affect the people, everybody, including and especially the people that you're entangled with, that you have connections to, okay? So don't just be quick to judge about who's a narcissist and who's not, but do recognize that it's a toxic situation and the same principles apply. Start doing your research, figuring out maybe what personality disorder they struggle with, and then you can create a game plan. Oh, they struggle with this. You know what? This is how I'm going to handle it when it comes up. You don't have to feel like a victim. You don't have to feel exhausted. You don't have to even feel like you're wasting your life. And you can bring forth the positive qualities, hey Sherry, that these genetics, that the genetics that people with cluster B personality challenges have, you can bring it forth and really make a positive difference in the world. So here's your homework assignment today. I want you to take one person that's toxic in your life, and I want you to look beneath the surface. I want you to act almost like a little bit like a private investigator, a little bit like Sherlock Holmes, and question yourself. Be like, what's going on here? Why do they behave in such a toxic way? Take your power back. Don't keep feeling like you're being victimized. Instead, say, you know what, there's something I can do about this. And the first thing I'm going to do is gather information so I know what I'm dealing with. Okay? So that's what I want you to do today. Gather some information. Know what you're dealing with. It will make you feel empowered, and it will start to make the world even a little bit of a better place. Don't give up. Don't feel like your world's going to come to an end. I know you're exhausted, but this is the way out. This is how you get out of the hole, and this is how you create the best relationships you've ever had in your life, whether they're with the toxic person or not. Totally up to you. There's no judgment either way. But the more you understand what people are thinking, the more you have a feel for where people are on different spectrums, the more confident and comfortable and grounded you're going to walk through life, because you're going to have a handle on what other people just feel victimized by. Okay? So if you feel stuck, we've got a brand new group. Look for it. It's healthy skills to cope with narcissists. Look for it. Ask to join. We'll add you. It's all about exactly that. Healthy skills to cope with narcissists. And if you're still stuck, give me a call. I do coaching programs for 3 months or 12 months. I can point you in the right direction. We've got meditations. You do not have to feel trapped. You do not have to feel exhausted. This does not have to be your life. There's absolute possibility for change. And whether it's for the toxic person in your life or not, you get to become the healthiest, most beautiful version of you, and you deserve to be. The world needs you to be. And actually, the world needs these people with, cluster Bs and personality disorders. We need them to be the best version of themselves too, because they carry unique qualities which, when utilized properly, when managed properly, are in everybody's best interests. They really are. And so it's about how do we raise everybody up, not how do we tear everybody down. And when someone is coming at you with emotional violence or gaslighting or manipulation or things like that, it's important for you to say, okay, what's really going on here? Take a few steps back and look at the big picture. And when you do that, you'll start to gather the tools and the strategies that you need in order to live an amazing life. Okay? So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I am looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. See you later. Bye.